In a palace spun with lies, secrets, and poisons, Mamo had finally made her move. And now she waited for the spider to crawl from the center of its web. And connections deep in the Ministry of Rights. When Mamo arrived, she found the woman alone, hands clasped, smile subtle. Because if she wanted to survive, if she wanted answers, she'd have to become the spider herself. "You've been busy," Maimei said, pouring tea that neither of them touched. Mamo didn't deny it. "Why did you send the needle?" Maimei chuckled. No denial, no fear. He moved with a haunted look in his eyes. One of his attendants entered with a sealed imperial edict. Read it aloud. Her son Baotai was due to wed soon, and his bride was still nowhere to be found. The afternoon sun dappled the ground in gold, casting long shadows that danced with the falling petals. It was a picturesque scene, but Mamao's eyes saw only the trap before her. She'd indeed managed to find Maimei's location, but getting the concubine to speak was another matter. After all, she had no reason to do so. Yet Mamo had bided her time until she spotted an opportunity. As the palace prepared for the upcoming Lantern Festival, excitement buzzed among the women. Each courtyard was vying to outdo the last in their displays of fireworks and lanterns. It was then that Mamo made her move. She asked Maimei for assistance in designing her own courtyard's display, flattery veiled as necessity. Maimei, who had designs of her own, initially declined. But when Mamo mentioned that she had a unique idea for a lantern that would surely impress the Empress, Maimei's interest piqued. She agreed to help, setting up a meeting for the following day. And so, under the guise of festival preparations, Mamo found herself seated across from Maimei in her secluded courtyard. Hadn't they told her to hurry up? The clan's reputation was at stake. Suddenly, her mother-in-law appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. "She's here," the Empress Dowager said softly. "Chang's daughter." Lady Zhen's eyes widened in surprise. "But how could you bear to let her come here after what happened to her father?" "That is why I chose her," the Empress Dowager said, stepping into the room. "Think about it, Zane. Shang has always lobbied for closer ties with the western regions. Now his daughter will be our son's wife, making Chang's influence our ally. Besides," she added with a smile, "what better way to punish Chang than to force his daughter into this marriage?" Lady Jin shuddered, realizing the depth of her mother-in-law's cunning. "The Emperor has graciously accepted the resignation of Lord Chang and appointed him to the position of Grand Counselor of the Ministry of Revenue. He is to report to the capital once spring arrives." Chang sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I would rather die than serve the eunuchs in the Ministry of Revenue." The attendant bowed his head. "Your Grace, you misunderstand. This is a promotion. You are favored by the Emperor." Chang screamed, his voice hoarse with despair. "But I don't want my daughter to marry into the imperial clan. I don't care about the promotion. You have to help me." The attendant shook his head sadly. "I am but a lowly servant. I cannot defy the Emperor's command." Chang collapsed, defeated. The edict was stamped with the imperial seal. There was no going back now. He had no choice but to obey. "I wanted to see if you were ready." "For what?" "To understand the real game. What followed wasn't a threat, it was an offer, an alliance. You're valuable, Mao Mao. People trust you. You see what others miss. That makes you dangerous, but also useful. So I can choose to serve you instead of Jinshi? You can choose to serve yourself." Mamo stared at her. A trap. It smelled like one, but it was also an opening. And openings in the palace were rare. And if I refuse? Lady Maimei smiled wider. "Then pray the next needle finds your heart." She knew someone had sent the mercury-laced needle. Not to kill her, but to provoke her. To test her resolve. She responded not with fear, but with precision. She brewed a harmless tea, but steeped it in a scent used only in the noble houses. She delivered it directly to the women's wing carried by a servant she knew was a spy. And then? She waited. 3 days later, she received a request. An invitation disguised as a command. A private tea ceremony. Held in a rarely used garden pavilion far from the inner court's eyes. The host, Lady Maimei, one of the Emperor's lesser-known concubines, unremarkable in appearance, barely spoken of. But Mamo knew better. Behind that quiet veil, Maimei had wealth, influence. That night, Mama sat alone holding a blank scroll. At the top, she wrote one name, Maimei. Then she drew a web. Chapter 18, The Empress Dowager's New Pet. The hunt had begun. Lord Shang had taken his leave, citing urgent business in the western provinces. In reality, he'd gone to ground, terrified of the Empress Dowager's wrath. He knew she suspected him, and now he was nothing more than a fugitive. Desperate to escape the capital, he'd left most of his possessions behind, including a very expensive habit. Chang had been a connoisseur of fine art, particularly paintings of beautiful young men. He amassed a collection so vast that rumors had circulated about its existence within the palace walls. Apparently, Lord Chang had a secret gallery where he kept his prized possessions hidden. Things like this courtesan from the Jade Tower. Her name was Yan, and she was known throughout the city for her unparalleled beauty. For Chang, she was just another prize on a shelf, a plaything to be pulled out when he desired, but now she was free. Yan walked through the empty rooms of Chang's mansion, marveling at the opulence around her. Her heart ached with a sudden clarity. The things this man coveted most weren't people or things. They were moments, experiences, sensations. Once they were acquired, they became nothing more than dust on a shelf. Suddenly, she heard footsteps and she hid behind a screen. Lord Chang had returned. His face was pale, his clothes rumpled. Across town in the Imperial clan's residence, Lady Xin was pacing nervously. In the garden, Mama watched as Mei Mei took slow sips tea. Now the trap was set. All that remained was for Malmo to spring it.